He insulted me, saying I don't want a kid like you, he smirked. I was shocked to see my dad laughing in a teasing way. Sorry, but I won't be taking care of you. You're in high school now. You can manage on your own, right? He added, I'm running off with my lover, so don't try to contact me again. Right after my mom's passing, my dad skipped her funeral and revealed he was running away with his girlfriend. I was deeply disappointed with him, and I didn't feel like stopping him. Go ahead. I won't reach out to you, thanks. He left the house, saying, I'm fortunate to have an understanding daughter like you. I believed we'd never cross paths again. Despite what a lousy father he was, I felt almost relieved to be free of him. Surprisingly, just 3 days later, I received a relentless call from him. I considered ignoring it but chose to pick up. Who is this? Then my father on the other end of the line said something unbelievable. My name is Emily Young, a fresh high school student. You might think I'm enjoying the typical high school life, but my home situation is far from ideal, all because of my father. He was a well-educated, leading accountant, often the subject of envy. However, his true character wasn't admirable. He had a habit of looking down on those with less education, including my mother, who only finished high school. He frequently belittled her, saying, a high school diploma is embarrassing. Without me, you couldn't survive in front of me. Despite what he said, she struggled to be financially independent and couldn't divorce him. She always encouraged me to study hard, emphasizing the importance of getting qualifications for financial independence. Don't end up like me, earn your own living, she'd say, reading books to me since my childhood. Even though my father earned well, he provided only the bare minimum, and my mother couldn't afford to buy books for me. So she often took me to the library, where she would read to me. Thanks to that, I got into a prestigious private school. However, my high-achieving father wasn't proud of me at all. He had no interest in me, not even knowing which high school I attended. His disinterest stemmed from archaic views of male superiority. Once he learned I was a girl, he lost interest. He had initially wanted a son to inherit his accounting firm, but that dream ended when my mother gave birth to me and couldn't have more children. Since then, he hardly showed any interest in my mother or me. When he was drunk, he'd insult my mother, saying, "Dan, I'm such a nice guy to marry an ugly, stupid woman like you." She'd ask him to stop, especially in front of me. But he'd get furious, yelling, "What, talking back to me? Do you realize who's feeding you, you useless woman?" I couldn't bear to watch, locking myself in my room and covering my ears. His tyranny extended beyond verbal abuse. He also had a troubling habit of infidelity. Using work as an excuse, he frequently arrived home late, sometimes not until morning. Over time, he started emanating the scent of women's perfume, which repulsed me. I'd remark, "Your perfume is too strong," pinching my nose. He'd respond with disdain, saying, "What? You think your nose is too good? Why did you wear perfume too? A woman like you can't survive without relying on a man." I harbored deep resentment toward my father for uttering such demeaning remarks to his own daughter. However, it seemed like he didn't even realize the extent of my disdain. He'd continue with comments like, "You do take after your mom with that plain face and personality. What's the use of a girl like you studying? You'll just end up a woman with too much pride, and no man will come near you." While he consistently insulted my mother for lacking education, he belittled me for being educated, claiming it was pointless for a woman to study. I considered this man truly hopeless. Adding to the frustration, he scarcely provided us with any money, yet adorned himself in expensive brand suits and watches. Even his loungewear was stylish, leading me to question the economic inequality within our own home. When I proposed to my father, "If you have that much money, why don't you buy something for Mom?" he merely snorted, saying, "It's my hard-earned money. What's wrong with spending it on myself?" He adamantly refused to spend a penny on us. It was solely because of my mother that I could endure those days. However, just as I entered high school, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. By the time we discovered it, it was too late, and she had a limited time left. Upon learning about it, I broke down, clinging to her and crying. I questioned, "What am I going to do without you, Mom?" But then, considering the situation, I didn't want to cause her any more worry because of me. Since then, I made an effort to spend the remaining time with her as joyfully as possible. When I visited her in the hospital, she would say, "Sorry for troubling you every day, Emily. You have schoolwork too. You don't need to visit me so often," with a relatively cheerful smile. I responded, "I come because I want to see you, Mom. Plus, staying at home means dealing with that drunken father of mine. I can't stand even looking at him." Hearing this, my mother's expression turned a bit sad. "I'm sorry for making you feel that way about your father. I'd always hoped you and your dad would get along." Irritated, I replied, "I'm sorry, Mom, but that's impossible. You do all the housework and take care of me, and he just looks down on you for it." My mother sighed slightly and said, "That's because I'm of no use in society." Trying to reassure her, I said, "That's not true, Mom," but she just gave a faint, sad smile. My father never visited my mother in the hospital. He rarely came home either. On the few occasions I did see him at home, I asked him to visit Mom, but he refused. "I'm busy with work. You, her daughter, should visit her. Dan, her suddenly getting sick and leaving all the housework undone is such a nuisance." Horrified, I responded, "How could you talk like that? Can't you at least worry about Mom a little?" He replied with disgust, saying, "Worry? I'm more concerned about my own future. She promised to take care of me for life, and now she gets sick so soon. It's unbelievable." I couldn't suppress my anger and shot him a glare. "What's with that look? You do realize you're living off me, right?" I wanted to leave this house, but frustratingly, he was correct. I was still a freshman in high school and under his roof. Then, a month later, my mother passed away. Amidst the grief, I busied myself with preparing for her funeral. My father insisted we didn't need to have a funeral and provided no help. However, I was determined to give my mother a modest farewell. I called him, mentioning his busy work schedule and infrequent returns home. "Hey, I've decided to hold a funeral for Mom, so please come." When did I stop referring to him as Dad? That thought crossed my mind, but I had no intention of using that term ever again. Annoyed, he replied, "Dan, I told you we don't need a funeral. I'm not going to spend any money on that, you know. I'll work and pay you back in the future, so please at least come to the funeral. I'm busy that day, plus I hate such pathetic events like funerals," he said before hanging up abruptly. I was left speechless. Despite our strained relationship, he had been married to her for years, yet he wouldn't be there for her final moments or even attend her funeral. This was the breaking point for me. I lost all respect for my father. The next day, an unusual event occurred. I thought it was rare for my father to be home, but there he was in the living room with a large suitcase. Seeing my puzzled expression, he blurted out, "I don't need a brat like you," sneering. I was stunned to witness my father laughing mockingly. "Sorry, but I'm not going to look after you. You're in high school. You can live on your own, right? I'm eloping with my lover, so don't ever contact me again." Immediately after my mom's death, without attending her funeral, my father declared his elopement with his mistress. I was completely disillusioned with him and had no intention of trying to stop him. "Just do whatever you want. I won't be reaching out to you, that's for sure. Thanks. I consider myself fortunate to have such an understanding daughter," he said before leaving the house. I believe that was the last encounter between us. Strangely, despite how awful he was as a father, I felt oddly relieved to be free of him. However, just 3 days later, I received a persistent call from him. Initially contemplating ignoring it, I eventually decided to answer. "Who is this?" Startled by my response, he stammered, "You. How can you ask who is this to your own father?" I retorted sharply, "Do you really think I still see you as my father? Are you foolish?" This seemed to fluster him even more. "Hey, you've done something terrible, you know. Because of you, I might lose my job." "What are you talking about? I haven't done anything." "Weren't you the one who said never to contact you again?" I replied casually. Then, at the height of his anger, he shouted over the phone, "Is this really the time for that? I know what you're doing." Listening to him seething in anger, I couldn't help but laugh. Yes, he was right. The predicament he found himself in was a result of my actions. This takes us back to before my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. Frustrated with my father's constant infidelity, I decided to gather evidence of his affairs by snooping through his phone. When he was intoxicated, he often carelessly left his phone unlocked, walked away, and dozed off. Swiftly taking his phone from his hand, I began sifting through the photos. There they were, numerous pictures of my father with a woman who appeared to be his mistress. I saved those photos to my phone. I embarked on a mission to uncover the identity of my father's mistress. However, being a high school student, my resources were limited. In contemplation, a close friend mentioned, my friend's cousin is a private detective. I pleaded with the friend to introduce me to the detective, who agreed to investigate my father's mistress, saying, "Okay, I'll do it for my cousin's sake, and you can pay me later." The investigation yielded intriguing results. The mistress, Natalie Grubb, was supposedly 32 years old, residing alone in a luxurious condo. "But this condo is too big for one person," pondered the detective. Delving deeper, he discovered that Natalie had a husband on an overseas assignment. My father, under the impression that Natalie was single, was in for a rude awakening. Upon learning this, I couldn't help but laugh. On the day my father abandoned me and left the house, I sent photos of his affair with Natalie to her overseas husband. Half of the photos were taken from my father's phone, and the rest were captured by the detective. Presumably, a furious call from Natalie's husband reached my father, and I could hear his agitated voice on the phone. Accompanying the photos sent to Natalie's husband was a letter stating, "Your wife is having an affair with my dad, and you knew about it, didn't you?" "Yeah, you heard right." "Well, it can't be helped." "Yes, I did it, but so what?" "I just told the truth," I responded, leaving him speechless and trembling with anger. Adding insult to injury, I remarked, "Planning to elope without even knowing she was married? That's just stupid," further fueling his fury. "What do you mean, stupid? Talking to your parent like that? What you did is not just telling a husband about his wife's affair. It's more serious than that," he solemnly stated. Intrigued, I asked in a puzzled tone, "What? What do you mean?" "That's the problem. You don't understand the gravity of the situation," my father continued, his voice trembling. "Natalie's husband, he was an important executive at a major client of my company. No way, really." I exclaimed in surprise, though I already knew. Unaware of this revelation, my father lamented in a dark tone, "Oh, I'm finished." How did it come to this? The detective's investigation had unveiled that Natalie's husband was an executive at S Corporation, a publicly listed company and a key client of my father's firm. Upon discovering that S Corp was a major client of my father's company, a thrilling sense of excitement surged within me. This presented an opportunity for revenge for my mother. Yesterday, Natalie's husband stormed into the office, spreading affair photos of me and Natalie throughout the company. Stunned, I momentarily froze but coolly remarked, "Serves you right." Quiet. You have no idea how much contempt I face from my employees. Me, the president, being ridiculed by those lower-level employees. It's humiliating. I couldn't suppress a laugh at his words. My father, always proud and condescending, was now scorned by his own employees. The irony was palpable. Soon, the president of S Corp contacted us, announcing the termination of their business relationship. Wow, that's serious. You really don't get it, do you? It's not just that. After S Corp pulled out, all my employees submitted their resignations. His words left me in shock. Everyone. Why would they do that? Because without S Corp, my company is finished. Is that so? My father's accounting firm, a small office with about 5 employees, relied heavily on revenue from S Corp. Frustrated with my father's tyranny, the employees likely decided to leave en masse once S Corp withdrew. Although surprised at the extent of the situation, It felt like just desserts given my father's actions. Natalie had left him, his employees were gone, and my father was now utterly alone. Despite his previous indifference to my mother and me, it turned out he was vulnerable to loneliness, which probably explained his repeated infidelity. Suddenly feeling lonely, he made an outrageous proposition. Well, it's fine. I was thinking of coming back home anyway. What do you mean? Well, I've broken up with Natalie, and I'm not alone now. I thought I'd come live with you. His audacious suggestion disgusted me. How could he have the audacity to return now? Living together harmoniously was impossible after everything. There's no way I'm living with you. I don't want to live with you at all. I flatly rejected his proposal. Unmindful of my disdain, he clung to the idea. Don't be so stubborn. You're still in high school, aren't you? Still a child. You should want to live with your parent, right? His statement was audacious, especially after claiming I could live on my own because I was in high school. How can he shamelessly say such a thing? Unfortunately for you, I can live just fine without you. In fact, my life would be a mess with you around. So don't you dare come back, I declared, and he grew angry. What are you talking about? That house you're living in is my house. It's only natural for me to return. No matter what you say, I'm definitely coming back. Faced with this reality, I had no choice but to concede. That's true. This house is in my father's name. So, I don't have the right to refuse him. That's true. I reluctantly conceded. Upon hearing my resigned response, he sounded relieved. Right. So from now on, let's live together as a family, just you and me. In response to his cheerful suggestion, I coldly retorted, no, it's fine. I'll be leaving. What? What do you mean? Where are you planning to go? My father asked, surprised. I'm going to my grandparents' house in Nebraska, living with you. No thanks. It's my mom's parents' place. Anticipating my father's potential return to this house after learning about Natalie being married, I had already contacted my maternal grandparents in Nebraska as a precaution. They readily agreed to take me in. My father's parents, much like him, were selfish and unmanageable, so I barely kept in touch with them. Hearing this, my father sounded troubled. Don't say that. We're the only family we have. I'll change my ways. Let's live together, he insisted. But I said, I know what you're up to. You just want me to take care of you, right? You're just worried about being alone and dying alone, I accused him. No, that's not true. Look, you said you want to go to college, right? I'll pay for it. If you don't live with me, I won't pay. Are you okay with that? Faced with his intimidation over the phone, I replied simply, I'm fine with it. What? Don't be so stubborn. Planning to work part-time while attending college. It's hard, you know. Just give up on that idea. As usual, my father belittled me. But I informed him, I have the life insurance money that Mom left me. He sounded completely taken aback. Life insurance? You mean she had a policy? Yes. After my mother passed away, she had made sure I wouldn't struggle financially by taking out a life insurance policy. She had become ill after giving birth to me, and that's when she started worrying about what would happen to me if she fell ill again and left me alone. My father had no interest in me since then, and his infidelity was rampant. She was worried that after she was gone, he wouldn't provide me with enough money for college or even basic living expenses. So she managed with the meager allowance my father gave and did some work from home without him knowing, just so she could pay for the insurance. Wait a minute. Where did the money for that insurance premium come from? She was just a housewife, right? So does that mean she used my money to pay for it? My father, stingy as ever, questioned. If she took out insurance with my money, then I should get the payout, right? I couldn't believe he'd think there's a law for that. But I told him, no, you're wrong. Mom was working from home while being a housewife. She used that money for the insurance. What? My father, who had lived as he pleased, didn't want my mother working outside and never allowed her to even have a part-time job. So she chose work she could do from home and earned a small income without him knowing. Hearing this, he muttered, I've been deceived. She was doing all that behind my back. I couldn't hold back my anger at his words. Deceived. Really? Can you believe it? She struggled so much because you only gave her the bare minimum to live on. All my clothes were bought from auction sites. I never got new clothes. I don't think she ever spent money on herself. He was silent, unable to make a sound. And yet, you were out there splurging on brand name goods and luxury items, enjoying life alone. You're the worst, but I had to spend on my appearance for work. Those extravagances you're talking about, they were for entertaining clients, he tried to justify. But I wasn't fooled. Sure, there were some client entertainments, but I also knew about the trips and lavish meals he enjoyed with his mistresses, while never giving a single gift to my mother or me. Recalling all this thoroughly disgusted, I said, "That's enough. I've lived with you for over a decade. I know what kind of person you are. Sorry, but don't ever contact me again," I said sharply. Despite my father raising his voice, saying, "Wait," I didn't care and hung up the phone. Following that, it appears my father's company faced rapid bankruptcy. He had been misusing the company's funds for personal gain, relying on revenue from S Corporation. Once the ties with S Corporation were severed, his company swiftly crumbled financially and declared bankruptcy. Post-bankruptcy, job opportunities eluded my father, and his income plummeted. The industry quickly caught wind of rumors about his affair with the wife of an executive at S Corporation, severely damaging his reputation. Despite his pride, my father, unable to offer apologies, struggled in sales and found himself adrift. Eventually, he couldn't meet mortgage payments and had to relinquish the house. Turning to his own parents for assistance proved futile, as they rejected their selfish son. Disowning him, they declared, "He's no longer our son." Socially and financially ruined, having lost home, family, and mistress, my father now lives on the streets. Unaccustomed to failure, he appears mentally fragile and incapable of reintegrating into society. On my part, after my mother's memorial service, I relocated to Nebraska to live with my grandmother, gradually settling into a more stable life. Much like my mother, my grandmother is kind and an excellent cook, providing me with a more comfortable life than my time at my parents' house. During my days off, I visit my mother's grave with my grandmother, savoring Mont Blanc's cake, her favorite. On our way home, my high school life is thriving, and I'm enjoying happy days with friends, attempting to compensate for the challenging times I faced. Yet there are occasions when I miss my mother and find myself shedding tears. Although I believed my grandmother and others were oblivious, it turns out they cared. One day, to my surprise, she brought home a puppy, stating, "I thought it might help ease your loneliness a bit, Emily. You said you love toy poodles, right?" "Yes, I love them. Having a dog has always been my dream," I replied, and my grandmother beamed warmly. Enchanted by the puppy's enthusiastic tail wagging and affectionate licks, I resolved to gradually increase my happiness in this way. Hey everyone, I'm Claire, and I'd like to share a part of my life story with you. Unfortunately, it revolves around dealing with challenging in-laws and my soon-to-be ex-husband. Although I'm in the process of getting a divorce, I thought it would be worth sharing my experience for those of you who may be facing constant criticism from your in-laws without any apparent reason. Let me take you back to when Zane, my now ex-husband, and I first met through a dating site. At the time, I was a 19-year-old college student, while Zane, age 25, had a stable job. Despite the age gap, we fell in love. Personally, I never judge people based on age or appearance, so Zane's age was never an issue for me. However, he struggled with the age difference, constantly questioning why I chose to be with him. Zane would express his concerns, saying, "Why are you with me, Claire? I just don't understand. I'm so much older than you. You could do much better with guys your age." In response, I assured him that age didn't matter to me, emphasizing that I loved him for who he was. Yet he remained skeptical, grappling with self-esteem issues that stemmed from his age and single status. Throughout our relationship, I made every effort to show him my love. Despite being a college student with limited finances, I never allowed Zane to spend money on me. I worked part-time jobs and used the earnings to buy him gifts and cover my expenses. Despite my gestures, Zane's low self-esteem persisted, and he couldn't fathom that I genuinely loved him. Despite my unwavering support and understanding, his persistent doubts about my love broke my heart during the first 2 years of our relationship. I couldn't comprehend the reason behind Zane's persistently low self-esteem until I had the opportunity to meet his parents. The revelation came when I encountered Zane's dad, Michael, a hardworking man who, at one point, struck luck and won the lottery, transforming their lives. They purchased an extravagant house and secured the rest of the money in an account for a comfortable future. However, the issue lay in Michael and his wife, Molly's belief that they were superior to others. On our initial meeting, Michael proudly asserted, "Not everyone can make it big like me. I worked hard, and look where it got me." Winning a substantial lottery on the first try is incredibly rare. They continually emphasized their exceptional decision-making abilities, claiming that Zane, despite completing college, would never achieve financial success like them. Their disdain for Zane's past relationships was evident as they implied that his partners were gold diggers who left as soon as accused of being greedy. Despite Zane's accomplishments, Molly and Michael's condescending attitude fueled his insecurities. Witnessing Molly and Michael's disparaging remarks about Zane stirred my frustration. They not only insinuated that every girl Zane dated was after his money, but also hinted at me being a gold digger. Determined to set the record straight, I spoke up, expressing my disagreement. I defended Zane, highlighting his hard work to establish himself professionally, assuring them that he would continue to succeed. However, Molly and Michael dismissed my words, insisting that women were only interested in Zane for his financial status. I countered by reminding them that while we jointly owned the house, Zane would inherit it in the end. Despite my efforts, their prejudiced views persisted every time they visited our $200,000 house. "These girls, they just see dollar signs in their eyes," Michael muttered, his tone dripping with disdain. His words stung, casting a shadow over the atmosphere. "I'm not sure about his exes, but I'm not with him for money. I love your son, and that's why we're dating. I want nothing to do with your house," I interjected, trying to assert my sincerity. Molly, attempting to pacify the tension, offered, "Don't worry, Claire. Sometimes it's hard to accept that people can be successful and live in nice houses. You only live in a small rented apartment, that too with roommates. After being around our house for a while, you will start wanting it too. It's just about time." Their words ignited a fire within me, fueling my fury. As we left, Zane remained silent, absorbing their criticisms without a word of defense. Confronting him later, I expressed my frustration. "Your parents are very mean people. They keep insulting both you and me. Why didn't you speak up?" Zane's response caught me off guard. "What did you want me to say, Claire? I'm not sure they are off the mark. Women in the past have used me to try and get some money from my parents. Mostly they made elaborate plans with the house and how it would be all ours when my parents passed away." His words resonated with a painful truth. Even if they were gold diggers, it doesn't mean I'm one too. You said nothing when your family insulted me as well. He countered, "You know that my family is now well off, so there is a possibility that they're right about everything. I'm not saying you had bad intentions for sure, but I can see why it looks weird. You don't even have parents, so you have to rely on my inheritance alone." His accusations struck deep, but I refused to concede. "What you are insisting is bizarre, Zane. I have never made you spend money on me. And even if I don't have an inheritance, that doesn't mean you can call me a gold digger." Yet Zane remained resolute in his beliefs, insisting that his love for me outweighed any suspicions. While his words might satisfy others, I couldn't shake the feeling of being misunderstood. I didn't want him to harbor such negative thoughts about me. I attempted to communicate with him, striving to make him understand the necessity of therapy, recognizing that he needed it. Unfortunately, he adamantly insisted that there was nothing wrong with him, causing me to eventually give up. Despite this, I distanced myself from his family over time. As years passed, we became engaged shortly after my college graduation. Working a decent job, albeit not highly paid, I began saving money to contribute to our wedding. We split the wedding costs evenly and tied the knot when I was 22. However, the following 3 years of my life turned into a nightmare. Zane frequently visited his parents' home and returned with a sour mood. I was aware that Michael and Molly continued to mock him and label me a gold digger. I urged Zane to reduce contact with them, believing they were poisoning his perception of our relationship. Despite my efforts, Zane persisted in communicating with his parents and accepting their unfounded doubts about my love for him. Exhausted from continually proving myself, the breaking point came on Zane's birthday. Opting for a small celebration at home, I gifted him the expensive watch he had long desired. Zane was thrilled with the present, and my initial joy waned when he suggested visiting his parents to show them the gift. Reluctantly accompanying him, Zane excitedly presented the watch to Molly and Michael. "Look at this beautiful watch that Claire gave me. I've been wanting this for a while now. Isn't it beautiful?" Molly chimed in with a patronizing tone. "Oh, did she know, Zane? Looks like she does love you after all. We were pretty worried for a while there." Michael interjected, "Don't get carried away, Zane. She's a gold digger. Married our son because we own a $200,000 house. Let's not forget the facts." Indignant, I responded, "Excuse me? Why do you think I married your son for your house?" Michael continued, dismissing my words. "Well, you were just living in an apartment after working for 4 years. Besides, Zane is so much older than you. Why would you marry him unless you want something from him? I'm sure our house was always an attraction, if not his money. I married your son because I love him. All your theories about my being a gold digger are baseless. Zane knows the truth, and he will tell you just that, right, Zane?" I asserted, turning to Zane expectantly. To my astonishment, Zane remained silent, keeping his head down and avoiding eye contact. His lack of response sent a wave of discomfort through me. How could he stay silent in the face of such accusations? Feeling unsettled by my in-laws' perceptions and Zane's reaction, I couldn't contain my frustration. "Why are you not saying anything? Your parents always thought I was a gold digger. How will they know the real me if you don't tell them? Why are you quiet? Tell them they're wrong." Zane's response was disheartening. I don't know what you want me to say, Claire. I don't know if my parents are off the mark. There might be a possibility that you are after this house." His words hit me like a blow. Even Zane entertained doubts about my intentions. I couldn't fathom it. Zane's parents chimed in, echoing his suspicions. "He's not wrong to think like that. It's very suspicious that you never tried to buy a house. You don't even talk to him about buying a house. For someone who rents a place, buying a house should have been your priority." Their words cut deep, questioning my motives and choices. "Yes, it is your priority, but you decided not to work for a house. You saw that our house is an expensive one. You can't afford to buy a place like ours, even if you try. So you decide to just marry Zane and settle here. That does make more sense to me. I mean, why would you marry me anyway, Claire? You might have feelings for me, but I think there's more to that than just love." I was left speechless after that exchange. All the love I held for Zane seemed to have evaporated, reduced to nothingness as my in-laws and even my husband branded me a gold digger. While my in-laws' reaction stung, it was Zane's response that devastated me. In that moment, I made a pivotal decision. I wanted to file for divorce. I kept my decision to myself, waiting for the right moment. After Zane and I returned home, I contacted a lawyer and initiated the divorce proceedings. Zane remained oblivious, assuming I was just venting frustration. When the divorce papers arrived at my parents' house, I packed my belongings and left. Zane called in a panic, and I instructed him to come to an unfamiliar address, bringing my in-laws along. They arrived, bewildered by the grandeur of the house. "You must be wondering why I brought you here. It's a beautiful house, isn't it? No one can even compare their house to this. This must cost millions. It's a mansion, I remarked, emphasizing the extravagance. Zane questioned the circumstances, puzzled by my access to such a property. I invited them inside to discuss matters further, disregarding their confusion about the porch. As they entered, they were awed by the opulence of the house. Seated, I made my intentions clear. I have come to a decision. That's why you're here. I filed for divorce. Here are the papers. We can agree to an uncontested divorce if you want. Their bafflement was palpable. What? I don't understand. Why did you file for a divorce? Because you and your parents think I'm a gold digger. You guys think I'm after your house, right? I confronted them, laying bare the reason behind my decision. I can assure you that's not true, but it seems you won't listen. So, I'll spare you the trouble of dealing with my alleged gold-digging self and proceed with divorcing Zane. That should make everyone happy. You're considering divorce just because my parents told the truth. You're being ridiculous. Yes, it's not like we said something wrong. Why do you need to do these theatrics? Zane's family retorted, bewildered by my decision. I think this is a good thing, Zane. If she's so insistent, you should sign the papers. At least then you'll find someone who loves you. They continued, attempting to reason with him. Why did you bring us to this house? Do you want me to buy you this as part of our divorce settlement? Zane asked, puzzled by my actions. Why would I buy this house? Zane, this house is already mine, I declared, met with shock and disbelief from everyone present. How the hell can you afford a house like this? You stay on rent and don't have a good enough job to afford this. Don't lie to us, Zane questioned, his family echoing his skepticism. I'm not lying, Zane. Remember how I told you that my parents left me some inheritance? Well, this is the house I talked about. It's under a trust now, but I will get the house once I turn 30. I don't work a good job because I have a trust fund waiting for me, I explained, revealing the truth. That's impossible. Your parents died way back. There's no way they didn't let you get the house sooner, they countered, struggling to comprehend. My parents were well aware of the leeches that I might attract, so they told me never to mention the house or trust fund to anyone. They left everything to a trust to keep it safe until I was 30. That way, I would be well settled with someone who I know won't benefit from my inheritance. I clarified, shedding light on my circumstances. Oh my God, Claire, you should have told us that you're rich. We had no idea. Damn, this is a big house you have got. We will all live so comfortably here, they exclaimed, their perspective shifting dramatically. Yeah, you should have told me that sooner. We thought you were after our house. We could have avoided all the misunderstanding, Zane admitted, regretful of the confusion. I knew that Claire was perfect for Zane. See, I have been telling you that she is a great woman. Look how rich she is. Zane really found a great match, his father remarked proudly. Hearing this, I chuckled. They had changed their stance about me so swiftly it made my head spin. What's more bizarre was that they soon forgot that I filed for divorce. I took out the divorce papers and gave my signature. As I was saying, here is my signature for an uncontested divorce. You can just sign these to make it easy. If you want to fight, we can take this up to court. I won't live with you anymore, I asserted firmly. Claire, listen to me. There's no need to rush this. You've already established that you're not a gold digger. Yeah, there's no reason to get a divorce anymore, Zane insisted, his family echoing his sentiments. Yes, Michael is right. We are sorry, Claire. We doubted you for no reason. They'd apologized sincerely, finally acknowledging the truth. I don't want your fake apologies, Zane. For 2 years, you let your family berate me and call me a gold digger. I expected you to at least stand up for me, but no. You just agreed with them and called me a gold digger as well. I refuse to stay with someone who doesn't even respect his wife. I'm done with you. We can do this the easy way or get the courts involved. The choice is yours. Zane, Molly, and Michael did their best to change my mind. They begged and pleaded with me to forget the past. In their minds, what they did was just a simple misunderstanding. Not once did they seem remorseful for dragging my name through the dirt. Their audacity had my blood boiling. When I finally had enough, I told them to get out before I called the police. My anger scared them off, so they left. In the next few weeks, Zane and my in-laws kept harassing me every day. They begged, pleaded, and even offered bribes to make me stay. These people thought I would change my mind for money. Their notion only fueled my rage. The fact is, since Zane co-owned their house with the in-laws, I was entitled to half of his share. That made them desperate for reconciliation. I remained firm in my decision to split. I moved all my things into my parents' house to live there. I would be alone, and even though I didn't have the ownership yet, I knew I could stay there anyway. Zane and the in-laws kept reaching out to me until I got a new number entirely. I didn't want them spamming me from unknown numbers. Zane did come to my work to talk. However, the security was informed about the situation and asked him to leave. Zane still hasn't signed the papers, hoping to change my mind. It's been almost a year since I filed for divorce. I only have to go through another year or less before the courts deem it appropriate for us to get divorced. It will happen even if Zane doesn't want to stay. So far, I'm doing pretty well for myself. Since being alone, I've become quite happy and have more money to spend on myself. I'm going out on dates, but not considering anything serious. I've heard from a cousin of Zane's that he and my in-laws are dreading me out of my entitled share of the house. Apparently, the lawyer fees were adding up, and they didn't have much in savings. The cousin believes that they would have to sell the house to bring in the money. Zane is also pushing for a sale because he is mad at his parents for ruining his life. I simply don't care anymore and just want to be free from that family. Hey there, I'm Indigo, 28 years old, still grappling with the recent upheavals in my life. Our family, typically serene, has always had its fair share of drama, but things recently took a chaotic turn. To understand the unfolding events, let me provide some context. Growing up, my parents and I maintained a relatively tranquil existence, except for my older sister, Azalea. Azalea was a different story altogether, a whirlwind wreaking havoc in our family dynamics. She embodied the quintessential black sheep, taking rebellion to new heights. Breaking all the rules, forging her own path, our parents struggled to rein her in. Late-night parties, questionable friendships, romantic entanglements, and a blatant disregard for authority marked her distinct presence. However, the real bombshell hit when she became entangled with a married man. Yes, a major betrayal that shattered our family, turning us into pariahs within the community. The scandal gained national attention, amplifying the heartbreak caused by Azalea's choices. Following this, the situation only worsened. Azalea spiraled into a world of relentless partying, making increasingly risky decisions and pushing away anyone attempting to offer support. Her involvement in illicit substance abuse added another layer of distress, a painful spectacle that still haunts me. It felt like witnessing a slow-motion train wreck, leaving us all in disbelief, unable to cope. Our parents distanced themselves from Azalea, not out of a lack of love, but as a means of self-preservation. Could you blame them? The pain was overwhelming. Personally, I harbored intense anger towards my older sister. Once a figure I admired, she repeatedly shattered my trust and heart, dragging me into her irresponsible escapades. I attempted tirelessly to mend the fractured bond with her, but she persistently rebuffed my efforts, only seeking me out when she required money for drugs or a place to crash. Eventually, I made the tough decision to sever ties with her formally, following in my parents' footsteps, unwilling to be exploited for her benefit. Tragically, a few years later, my father passed away unexpectedly. The news hit me like a ton of bricks, leaving me devastated, especially knowing he departed without bidding farewell to one of his estranged children. Despite the tumultuous past, I reached out to Azalea in the hopes that amidst our grief, we could set aside our differences and unite as a family, finding solace in our shared loss. Yet, my optimism was shattered when I asked her to attend the funeral. Her response was like a slap in the face. She callously remarked she had better things to do. Can you fathom it? Our own father's funeral. and she couldn't muster the decency to be present. Anger surged through me, and I unleashed my frustration over the phone, pleading with her to set aside her selfishness and honor our father's memory by attending the funeral. But her response dripped with disdain and apathy. She mocked my plea, dismissing the significance of the occasion with indifference, claiming she had a life to live. That was the tipping point. I felt foolish for holding onto the belief that she might change. In that moment, I resolved that I wanted nothing more to do with her. The pain of losing our father was already unbearable, and her callousness only intensified it. This isn't about you, Azalia. It's about paying our respects and coming together as a family in our time of loss. Can't you see that? Oh, how noble. Love you, Miss Perfect, always playing the dutiful daughter. Well, count me out. I won't be a part of your little charade. You know what? Fine, don't come. I don't want you there anyway. You've proven time and time again that you don't care about anyone but yourself. Seek yourself, Indigo. Have fun mourning Daddy without me. That's exactly what I plan to do. And when this is all over, don't ever expect to hear from me again. I'm done with you, Azalia. Whatever, Indigo. Good riddance. And with those words, the line went dead. Anger and disappointment welled up inside me, mingling with the grief of losing our father. It was clear that Azalia's absence would leave a void, but at that moment, I knew it was a void I had to accept forever. The day of the funeral arrived, and people gathered to pay their final respects, but there was still no sign of Azalia. I confided in my mom about our fight, hoping she could sort things out, but it seemed as though she had failed. Azalia was nowhere to be seen. It hurt to see the absence of a sister who should have been there to support us in our time of need. After the burial, my mom and I returned home with some close friends and family members to continue mourning. Suddenly, something horrific burst through the door. There she was, stumbling and wearing a bright pink mini dress that clashed with the somber atmosphere. It was as if she had been out partying, completely intoxicated. To top it all off, she started spewing nonsense, adding insult to injury. Azalia stumbled into the house, knocking over glasses and causing a total ruckus. It was a hot mess, and I wasn't having any of it. We started yelling at each other, making a scene that had everyone cringing. Seriously, Azalia, what the hell are you doing? This is not the time or place for your drunken shenanigans. Oh, come on, Indigo. Dad wouldn't want us all sulk. Let's celebrate his life, damn it. Celebrate? Are you freaking kidding me? Can't you see how freaking inappropriate this is? Show some respect for once. Respect? Easy for you to say, Miss Perfect. You've always been the goody two-shoes, haven't you? Don't you dare start with me, Azalia. Our voices clashed, filled with frustration and years of pent-up anger. The room was tense, and it felt like our relationship hit rock bottom. Just when things couldn't get any worse, our mom stepped in and dragged us both to my room, trying to salvage some dignity and have a private conversation. Girls, enough is enough. Let's talk like adults and find some common ground. Fine, let's talk, but don't expect rainbows and unicorns. Suddenly, my mom and I heard sobbing. It was coming from Azalia. I'm sorry, Mom. Indigo. I've made so many mistakes, and you already know that I need serious help desperately. Dad's passing made me realize how lost and lonely I've truly been. I've missed you guys for a long time, actually, but my pride and stubbornness wouldn't let me reach out. I'm a wreck. Everyone knows that, but I want to change. I want to do better. It might be too late for me to reconcile things with Dad, but I'm hoping it's not too late for us. My mom softened at her words. Despite her and Dad cutting her off all those years ago, I could see that as a mother, being without her child was tearing her apart. I, on the other hand, needed some convincing. But seeing my sister's face crumple with anguish, whether directed at herself, her circumstances, or both, softened me too. Finally, I said, Azalia, if I'm being honest, I don't know if I can believe you anymore. But seeing you like this, owning up to your mistakes, at least it's a start. The weight of the past seemed to lift as we hugged, tears streaming down our faces. It was a bittersweet moment of reconciliation, a fragile bridge built over years of hurt and misunderstandings. At that moment, I realized that family, despite all the crap, could find healing and forgiveness. So after the funeral, things seemed to be looking up for Azalea. She decided to move back in with Mom, and for a while, it seemed like she was doing well. Mom would call me every now and then, giving me updates on Azalea's progress and how proud she was of her for making positive changes in her life. It was a glimmer of hope, you know. But then, just when we thought things were finally settling down, my mom called me in a panic one day. She sounded worried and distressed, and I could tell something was seriously wrong. "Mom, what's going on? Why are you so panicked?" "Indigo, it's Azalea. She's gone, and she took Dad's credit cards, jewelry, clothes, and even raided our pantry. I woke up to this mess and found a note from her. I had no idea where she went." "Are you serious, Mom?" "After all that has happened, she pulls another stunt like this. I can't believe it. I don't know what to do, Indigo. She's caused so much trouble, and now I'm worried about the credit cards. What if she racks up huge debts?" "Take a deep breath, Mom. We'll handle this. I'm the representative of Dad's estate, and it's my responsibility to protect his assets. I'll contact the credit card companies immediately and let them know to begin deactivating Dad's account. Thank goodness you're here, and the girl. I don't know what I would do without you. I feel so betrayed and hurt by Azalea's actions." "I understand, Mom. It's a tough situation, but we'll get through it together." "Thank you, Indigo. I appreciate your help and support. It's times like these when the family needs to stick together." How typical. Once again, I was feeling stupid for trusting that idiot again. I wanted to hold on to hope, but clearly I was wasting my energy. I had had enough of Azalea hurting this family. She had really broken Mom's heart with her actions, and I was ensuring that she would pay for her foolishness. It's a shame that we have to protect this family from another family member. What family member? She is dead to me. I'm just glad that she changed her name all those years ago, so she isn't officially tied to us anymore. Good riddance. I was shocked to hear these words coming from my mom. She must have been well past her breaking point. Although it was shocking to witness my mom act this way, she did give me an idea when she said Azalea changed her name many years ago as part of her rebellious act to distance herself from us. It had been a month since Azalea's shocking disappearance and her despicable act of stealing from Mom and Dad. I couldn't believe what I was seeing on her social media. She was flaunting her lavish lifestyle, clearly enjoying what she was buying with the stolen credit cards. If you thought that was bad, she even started tagging both Mom and me in her posts, as if she wanted us to see how carefree and extravagant she was being. Azalea was clearly seeking attention with her behavior, tagging us in every post, hoping to get under our skin, but we weren't going to stoop to her level. We knew that engaging with her would only fuel her ego and validate her attention-seeking tactics, so we remained silent, refusing to dignify her actions with any response. Then one day, out of the blue, I received a call from Azalea. I was reluctant to even answer, but I gotta say, part of me was really curious about what she had to say, so I answered. She sounded smug and arrogant, taunting me for not acknowledging her posts or commenting on her extravagant spending sprees. But I stayed calm and nonchalant, refusing to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. "Hey there, Indigo. Long time no talk. I've noticed you've been quiet lately, ignoring all my fabulous posts." "Oh, hey, Azalea. Yeah, I've been busy focusing on more important things. Your posts didn't really catch my attention." She was clearly irritated at this point. "What's your deal? Why are you so calm about everything? You should be furious with me." "Look, Azalea, your actions speak for themselves. I'm not going to let your behavior control my emotions. I've chosen to move on and prioritize honoring Dad's memory instead of getting caught up in your reckless antics." Azalea started shouting at me on the phone, calling me every nasty word in the book, but still, I didn't retaliate. I didn't fight back. I let her have her diva moment, knowing that she'd been receiving a rude awakening pretty soon. "You think you're better than me, don't you? Well, guess what? I've spent a whopping $20,000 on Dad's credit cards. I couldn't help but laugh, sinking even further down the spiral of anger. Azalea, your attempt to provoke me won't work. Your actions only reflect poorly on you. I've moved beyond letting your behavior affect me. I'm focused on protecting Dad's legacy and finding peace within myself. Yeah, good luck doing all of that rainbow pretty BS when you and Mom have to scrounge up the funds to pay off my debts. Ha! How do you feel about this? Honestly, Azalea, I feel sorry for you. What? Why? Because you have no idea what you've just done. Azalea was huffing and puffing, talking about how I had no idea what I was talking about, that it was her who had no idea. I started explaining how ever since she ransacked Mom and Dad's place, I began processing the account deletion of my dad due to his passing. The credit card companies advised us that the card might still be usable during this time, and that no purchases should be made while this process is being conducted. I then assured them that Mom and I wouldn't be using the card at all, and that if they noticed any activity from anyone, it was from a fraudster or a thief. What? You didn't tell them that there was another person in the family? What are you talking about? You're not part of this family. I could tell that the words I said smacked her right across the face. I'd never witnessed her so speechless before in my life, which is saying something because that girl can definitely run her mouth like a faucet. What? What do you mean I'm not part of this family? I mean just that, Azalea. You've made it clear to us time and time again that you don't love us. You don't even want us. You changed your name. You deliberately targeted our hearts during our time of mourning just to blindside us and dupe us, which was probably your plan all along, huh? Oh, cat's got your tongue now, huh? Anyways, I told the people at the bank that if they suspect any suspicious activity occurring after I put in the request for the account deletion, they should deal with it accordingly because it has nothing to do with Mom and me. So, what are you saying? I'm saying that when you're unable to pay the debt, because, let's face it, you'll be dealing with your authorities. Indigo, how could you do this to me? No, Azalea, how could you do this to me, to your mother? How could you sleep in her home and do her dirty like that? How could you disgrace your father, who can't even rest because of you? Do you not realize how selfish you are? Okay, so I'm the bad guy, right? I mean, that's what you people have always told me, so why not just report me to the police sooner? Why am I finding out about all of this now? Because watching you fall from your high horse would be much sweeter, darling. I didn't want to give you the heads up. I wanted you to be completely blindsided. But now I see that there's no point in that. You deserve to know that your days of freedom are limited, and very soon you'll be in the pen, and there's nothing you can do about it. Azalea began to cry on the phone, and I just sat in silence, waiting for the pity party to be over. But you know I can't pay this back. I'm gonna go to jail. Yeah, well, you probably should have thought about that before doing the stupid crap you're doing. Indigo, I'm so sorry. Save it. I don't want to hear anything else from you. I never want to hear from you again. And by the way, yes, prison orange is so not your color. Before she could respond, I hung up the phone. I did a little happy dance and waited for the eventual news of Azalea's arrest. As luck would have it, Azalea was arrested the very next day. The authorities took her to the station, and according to the buzz going around my county, Azalea was putting up a fight, denying everything, including the fact that the police found copious amounts of drugs in her house. She was digging herself a deeper grave with all that denying because the judge increased her sentence after she pleaded guilty. I will never understand why people plead guilty when there is undeniable evidence, but anyways, my mom and I rejoiced when we heard of Azalea's verdict. We were hoping to breathe at least for a couple of years before Azalea blessed us with her destruction. I was hoping that a few years locked up would do her some good and teach her some much-needed discipline. But it seems like getting a well-behaved Azalea wouldn't be happening for a long time because she apparently caused a ruckus in her prison cell, even badly beating one of her inmates. The judge said that there would be years added to her sentence due to her insolence in the pen. My mom and I have decided to put everything behind us for real this time. We can't keep going back and forth with this girl. Enough is enough. Whenever we'd get calls from the prison, we'd reject them, refusing to even speak to her in case she tried to slither her way back into our lives again. My mom and I are even considering moving to a different state just so that we can be away from her. We don't even want to have the opportunity to make one of our unwarranted visits when she gets out. Besides, after Dad's passing, I'm sure my mom wants a change of scenery as well. So we've seriously been considering moving away from all the mess and drama that's happened in our lives. It's such a shame that things ended for Azalia this way, but I'm just glad that I finally managed to get my revenge on Azalia from all those years ago. I'm glad that I let her dig her own grave deeper and deeper into debt because of her foolishness. I just hope that some part of her has learned her lesson. But if not, I definitely know that I'm done caring about her in any way, shape,